My involvement in racing was never in motorcycles. I started out in the 1960s in the Southern California top fuel dragster stuff at Lyons Dragster, Irwindale, and all these places.
This strip is only a quarter of a mile long, but they'll be hitting speeds up to 180 miles an hour.
I had this machine shop, but I had a dream that one of these days I was going to mix my love of machining with my love of racing. I had no idea that it would ever involve motorcycles. I owned a machine shop, doing some aerospace work. I wasn't even into motorcycles. A friend of mine bought a new Honda 750. This had to be about 70, 71. And he came into my shop and he said, a friend of mine told me that there was somebody in a Honda shop in Thousand Oaks that was taking CB350 pistons and machining would go on a Honda to make a big bore kit. I said, well, get some, we'll see what we can do. So we did it. I cut up all these pistons. He put them in his motorcycle and it was fast. Then his friends all asking, well, where'd you get your piston kit? Well, a friend of mine has a machine shop and he made them for me. Well, your friend make me some, and that's how it all got started. We probably made 500, maybe 1,000 836 kits for 750 Hondas. We used another cast piston to make a 1015 kit for the Z1 Kawasaki when it came out. But I got to the point where I couldn't go any bigger because there were no more pistons to use. And I needed forged pistons. That's the way the industry was going. So I contacted everybody, Venolia, Arias, MTC when they're in California, and none of that worked out. So I went to a motorcycle trade show and ran into Bob Anderson from Wiseco Pistons. At the time, Wiseco was owned by the family and they only made two-stroke pistons. And I told him, Bob, you need to make four-stroke big bore kits. A couple of years I did that to him at the trade shows, and then finally I went to a trade show and Bob says, hey, I'm coming to your place after the show's over. We're gonna talk to you. We're gonna do this four-stroke big bore piston kit thing. Boy, what a godsend that was. We sold so many of these kits. They would make pistons and send them to me. I'd say, no, these aren't right. I'd put them in the mill, rework the valve pockets, everything, send it all back, make them like this. And we did this back and forth thing. That's how Wiseco got into the four-stroke piston business. And to this day, their 836 piston for the 750 Honda is a direct copy of the cast piston we made back in the 70s. For helping do this, I became the very first Wiseco four-stroke distributor in the whole world. Then later on, along came JE Pistons, and we worked some stuff with them. We became a JE distributor. And then CP Pistons came along. I knew Snake and his brother before they started CP Pistons, and so as soon as they got going, we were involved with CP. Then John Noonan got me involved with Wasner when he brought those into the United States. Then after Eric bought MTC and really straightened that company out, we became an MCC distributor. So I believe the way it is now today, I believe APE is the only major distributor in the racing parts business that is a warehouse distributor for all the major piston brands. During that time, the movie Easy Riders came out. So all of a sudden, everybody had to have a chopper. So here I was making extended fork tubes for 750 Hondas, turning Hondas into choppers. So we did one up, took it down to a motorcycle trade show, and it had everything. 12 over front end, 6-band pullback handlebars, a tweak bar with a second headlight, the whole thing. And while we were at this trade show, in come all these guys from Honda in their suits with their cameras. And they saw that motorcycle, And every one of them had to take a turn getting on it while their friends took their picture. They couldn't believe what these crazy Americans had done to a really nice motorcycle. So we did the whole chopper thing till that faded out. And then I decided to do this on my own and market it myself. And that's when APE first started. That was 1974. So 2024, this is our 50th year of doing this. We were in Burbank, California, in a little small building. We couldn't get a bigger building in Burbank. All the movie studios were taking everything. So we came up here to Willow Springs Raceway and we found some property for sale, bought some property, and we were able to build this pretty much state-of-the-art building up here, and we're at the racetrack. This was a great thing for us. We tripled our size when we moved up here. We more than doubled the amount of CNCs we had because now we had room for them and the power for them.
APE, this is Pat. Can I help you? Yes, we do carry cam sprockets. What are you looking for?
Now, this has been a great move for us, but this was all the benefits of APE and great and wonderful customers that believed in our parts and service. APE was basically a piston-based company. That's how we started. But as our product line increased, we started doing valve springs. That was probably late 70s, but we had valve springs for the KZ1000 Kawasaki stuff back when they were still being manufactured. And then our valve spring business just naturally grew and grew and grew to where we cover the whole spectrum now of the bigger four-cylinder bikes. In our CNC shop, we have one machine that's totally dedicated to titanium retainers. It runs all day long making titanium retainers, and we sell them as fast as they can come off that machine. Also, back in the day, people would send in their cam sprockets, and we'd put them in the mill and slot them for them and send them back. That was really a nuisance because nobody could stock these. So we decided to actually make cam sprockets from scratch. So we started doing it, getting bar stock, cutting it all up, and manufacturing cam sprockets on manual machinery. We did a whole bunch of different makes and models. Then pretty soon we got our first CNC machine, and wow, that was a game changer. And today you can go on our website. We make adjustable cam sprockets for virtually all of the bikes that somebody would want to race, and we're the only one that does them. And we make thousands of cam sprockets every year. And just about I would say every Hayabusa that you see that's modified has APE cam sprockets in it. One of the first modifications I did on customers' parts was lightening their crankshafts. 750 Honda crankshafts. Russ Collins started it by turning them down. So I took that a step further and cut the big angles on them. That was the first one to do that. We did so many of those things, and the whole crank thing just grew to where we now have our own subsidiary, racecranks.com, and we lighten and balance a lot of crankshafts in here. For the Hayabusas, the GSX-R 1000s, we have our own billet crankshafts. Strokers made out of billet, 4340 steel, and all the top runners, all the really top Hayabusas run that crankshaft, which has really been good for us. One of our biggest successes so far has been our Track King clutch. We've been doing the clutches since the 750 Honda. We did a kit for 750 Honda that you could put 2 extra clutch plates in. So when people started doing these 1000cc motors, there was a clutch that would handle it. But it was an APE clutch up until probably 6 years ago. Then we branded it as Track King. and they are hugely popular. We can't keep these in stock. I mean, all the major distributors have standing back orders with us to get these clutches. They're simply the best there is out there for drag racing. Another one of the things that really helped put APE on the map was when we became associated with the late Top Fuel legend Elmer Trett. Elmer Trett and I became personally best friends. It was a real tragedy for me personally when he was killed. But all of our time working with Elmer was he was the test bed for anything that was Kawasaki. We would run on Elmer's bike and see if he could tear it up. We knew if Elmer couldn't tear it up, nobody's going to tear it up. And he tore up a lot of it. But then he was way faster than everybody. But what that allowed for APE, we had the first parts to go 200, 210, 220, and 230 in the quarter mile.
2 weeks after setting both ends of the Top Fuel record, ET and Top Speed.
And then our association with Larry McBride, which goes clear back when he bought the old Vance and Hines bike. Now we're the first to 240, 250, and 260. So that's why we bill ourselves. Our slogan is the world's fastest motorcycle racing products. In the land speed thing, there was a guy, Bill Warner, who was what a fantastic guy. And we worked with Bill, and he went 310 miles an hour on a set-up motorcycle. And that was the fastest anybody, I believe, has ever gone on a set-up motorcycle. And then there's the APE Attack Streamliner, which has 2 Suzuki Hayabusa motors in it with all APE parts in it. And they've run as fast as 394 at Bonneville. That's how we use the slogan, the world's fastest motorcycle racing product, because we truly are. My involvement in racing was never in motorcycles. I started out in the 1960s in the Southern California Top Fuel dragster stuff at Lyons Dragstrip, Irwindale, and all these places. So when I got into this, I was just naturally attracted to the nitro burners. Still am. That's why we work with Larry, Chris Hann, and like I said, the late Elmer Trett. We are involved with a lot of the Top Fuel Harleys, Jay Turner, and most of the guys that race out of Jay Turner's. We make the only wrist pin those guys can't break. We were making tool steel wrist pins for Top Fuel. Elmer was the first one we made them for. And then all the other Top Fuel guys started using them. But this was on the Japanese bikes. I was walking through the pits in Gainesville one time and I could hear this bang, bang, bang. What the heck is that? I walked over and Bob Spina's got a sledgehammer trying to beat the front cylinder off of his engine. I says, "What are you doing?" He says, "Broke a wrist pin." I says, "I can fix that." He looked at me like, "Yeah, right." I says, "Really?" I says, "I make Elmer Trett's wrist pins." So Bob said, "Well, then let's try that." So we made some Harley Davidson wrist pins, and you can talk to Bob sometime. He never broke any. We made them then for Jim McClure, and the whole time Jim was alive, he was the one that marketed them to everybody. And then when Jim passed away, we started selling them directly to all the other racers. Well, early on, probably late 70s, early 80s, I wrote a drag racing column for Hot Bike Magazine. It was called Quarter Mile File. Every month I would just tell them what's going on in drag racing, motorcycle drag racing. And it was in Hot Bike Magazine for maybe a couple of years until they switched over to all Harley Davidson. So then shortly after that, I got the idea to do my own magazine. And we came up with Fast Times Magazine. Almost everybody that's been around this sport for a while remembers Fast Times Magazine. That's when I had press passes for all the races, and I would shoot photos on the starting line. and I promoted the racers that ran APE parts and had APE stickers show them. I did interviews with Dave Schultz about sponsorship. I did an interview with George Bryce, the star down at his place, about dynoing race engines. The magazine was so fun, and I really enjoyed doing that. I made all the ads that were in it, and I really enjoyed doing it, but however, it became way too successful, and it made me too busy selling motorcycle parts. I couldn't do it anymore. But to this day, I still do all of the marketing stuff for APE, as far as the print stuff, all of the product releases that you see on social media and everything. I still do all that because I really, really enjoy doing that stuff. Another one of the great products that we're a distributor for is Carrillo connecting rods. Diane and I met Fred Carrillo when he still owned the company, and we became a Carrillo distributor then. Then he sold the company, he went through several owners, and then there's such a huge godsend when CP Pistons bought it. That became the best of both worlds. We sell a lot of Carrillo connecting rods. One of the great things that people like about us, they can send their crank in and have it all lightened and balanced, or buy one of our billets and get it back with new Carrillos installed, ready for them to drop in the motor. This is what we call our Carrillo tower. It could go higher, but stuff is starting to fall off. But these are all empty Carrillo boxes of rods that we have put on crankshafts. I seriously doubt anyone has put as many Carrillo rods on Hayabusa crankshafts as we have right here. This does not include GSXR 1000s or ZX14s, because they have to come off the crank and go back in the boxes when they're shipped to the customer. But this is just Hayabusas, maybe GSXR 1100s, any with a removable cylinder block. At one point, they did not have very many power sports distributors. When CP Carrillo bought it, they came out here and visited us and asked, they were going to clean out the distributor thing and only have some top distributors. Would we be interested? We told them, yes, we absolutely would. I don't know how many they've got in the power sports side now, but we are what they call a master distributor with Carrillo. Back in the days, we used to go to the races, and then we would go out to dinner with Superbike Mike and the Orient Express gang. Superbike Mike was the first professional racer that had an APE sticker on his bike. That was a long time ago. To us, that was a big deal, because here they are at a race and one of the leading people had an APE sticker. Diane and I have been with Larry McBride since shortly after the Pilgrims landed. And he told me one time that, he says, you and Diane are my original sponsors. Whenever you look at the Spider-Man's motorcycle, right behind the seat, there's an APE sticker, and Larry says it will always be there. We had an involvement for a while with Pro Stock motorcycles. Well, Superbike Mike was the first guy I said that had the sticker. We worked with Steve Johnson back when he was first trying to get involved, and Karen Stouffer when they were trying to get involved. But our biggest success in Pro Stock was I worked quite a bit with George Bryce and Star Racing through the whole John Myers and Angel period. Every championship the Star Racing won with both John Myers and Angel, there was an APE sticker on the bike. I made a lot of custom stuff for George because we could do it in secret. He could have me make stuff and then, no, I'm not going to tell anybody. I did stuff for Greg Cope and Dave Schultz. Both those people were really great to work with. And then just a couple of years ago, we got involved with Steve Johnson again for a bit when he was started running the Monstar cylinder head, and we had some components that he needed. He went pretty fast with him too. We have been so fortunate that Diane and I have been all over the world in this business. It's been such an incredible fun thing. We've been to Australia. We went to Australia with Elmer Trett, Japan twice. Masa Yokota from Class 4 just took care of us like you wouldn't believe when we went to Japan. Before the pandemic, we would go to Sanapod every other year because we could see all of our European customers in one spot. But we've been to Hockenheim, we've been to the place in Austria, Osterring, I can't even pronounce it. But we've really had a great time seeing the world. But every time we went, and my wife always says it, every trip we went overseas, there was a drag strip over there. But the other stuff we got to see was just icing on the cake, but we were always going to a drag strip somewhere in the world. APE has always been successful. We've been so blessed by that. We've never, maybe in the first few years it was a little rough, but mainly it's taken care of itself. One of the things that has really benefited our company, if I can brag a little, has been the integrity issue. There was a time in our industry where people from overseas would send money to companies they'd heard about in the United States and never get anything back. But APE had a reputation. The word was out there, you can trust APE. You can send money to APE, you will get your parts. The fact that these other guys were screwing everybody over was a huge boon to us. You'll never go on social media and see anybody complain about a bad experience with APE. We just have a sterling reputation for that. And that's one thing that makes the APE brand itself so important. I've seen people post on racing social media sites, who do you think are the top 10 racing companies in the whole world? APE is always in that list. This brand has just become synonymous with going fast. This is one of the best brands in racing. Clearly in the top 10, maybe even in the top 5.